problem here is that both of the options seem like particularly bad options. So on the one hand, you might think that you want to default to the companies. After all, it is their platform, it's their business. They get to set the rules for the business that they want to have. And so it might seem normal to let them make the decisions about who's on their platform. But the idea of having a few small, powerful companies deciding who gets to, speak in politics, in domestic politics in countries, including in the United States, but other countries as well, that seems problematic. But on the other hand, if you default
So
to
what's
states to regulate companies to try to tell them who's doing it, then you're giving the power, putting the power in the hands of states. So we're in this sort of, very tight conundrum here.
so what is the solution?
I mean, we don't know what the solution is going to be here. I think this is one of the big things we're going to be watching as we go forward, right? We have crossed a kind of a Rubicon here in terms of social media platforms regulating the speech of elected politicians. Now, regulating is maybe putting it a bit strongly, but the decision to kick Donald Trump off of Twitter in the last couple of weeks, while it may have in the short term calmed the political temperature in the United States, especially in the aftermath of the insurrection at the Capitol or the attempted insurrection at the Capitol, but in the longer term, if it establishes a principle that these social media platforms have the ability, without significant pushback, to remove elected political leaders from a platform of communicating with their supporters, from a platform of communicating with potential voters, this gives the social media platforms potentially enormous power in the political process. So I think what we're going to see in the coming months and year, and especially in the United States with Democratic control of Congress, is we're going to see renewed attention to thinking about the power of these social media companies and the power they wield by dint of how many people turn to social media platforms for speech and how valuable a tool it's become for politicians to reach their supporters and to reach potential voters.
Yeah, but with great power comes great responsibility, Joshua. Good morning, Nathan. We're joining in this conversation. So how far would Twitter go in this process? And as you say, as we wait a formal regulatory framework to manage these companies. I mean, I'm just reading a Reuters report, a copy of the story put out earlier. Twitter saying they've blocked the account of China's U.S. embassy that is, for a Xinjiang-related tweet, saying that it has violated the firm's policy against dehumanization. How far would they go in this drive to regulate content?
Well, yeah, Tom Dare, as you know, we've talked about this before. I think at this point they've gone farther than I thought they were going to go, right? I thought this idea that they were going to silence Donald Trump was a step too far for a company that depends on, because it's a U.S. company and it's regulated in the United States, that it depends on the goodwill of both political parties, right? That's part of the trouble for these social media companies, is that they want to make sure that they aren't seen as being biased in one direction towards Democrats or Republicans. But again, I think these events of 2 weeks ago today in the United States were such a colossal shock to the system of the country. I mean, we had armed attempted insurrectionists inside the Capitol of the United States. There were Confederate flags being carried around inside the Capitol of the United States, something that had not happened even in the Civil War in this country. So all of a sudden, we're in kind of uncharted territory. Now, the question is, has that opened the floodgates, right? At this point, are you going to see the social media companies being emboldened in a weird way to do something that they probably don't want to be doing, but they have received tremendous pressure to do in the past, which is to enforce the sort of policies that they would normally enforce upon typical users of their platforms, to be enforcing those policies on politicians and on elected officials as well.